With great power, there must also come great responsibility. And a great video for all of you who have waited so patiently. I am Dane Damarung, and this is the Complete Blu-ray Collection video. That's right. I have just gotten moved into my new place. I'm living by myself for the first time in quite a while. Just trying to get the new place up and running. But as I said before, once I did, I would give you the long sought after Complete Blu-ray Collection video. And just keep in mind there's a couple things that arrived that I hadn't done a separate video for because, well, I'm doing it here. And there's some things like, see those posters back there, haven't hung those up quite yet, but for the most part I'm getting the new place up and running. But yeah, it just feels good to be settled again. Still trying to get going on the job front, but that'll happen hopefully in the days to come. But yeah, so the way I'm going to do this is I am going to do it probably by row, and that way it can have some breakup, and that way you can just see how I organize everything. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? This is the Complete Blu-ray Collection Video 2020. Now, before we formally start, how do you like this, that I'm actually employing edits into these videos now? Well, that's part of just raising my game and, trying to give you more for your money. But at any rate, just giving you a little bit of a idea of just how I organize things. I try to do it alphabetically. And again, I tried to do it by genre before in years past, but it ended up creating more problems than it solved. So that's why I do it the way I do it now. And this just gives you a little idea of the room as it exists right now. Got all my games and stuff. I was playing some Super Mario Sunshine on the Wii there because it's backwards compatible. Got all my controllers and stuff. Got the TV, of course, very important, and got some box sets up there. Will tear your soul apart. That's right. And yeah, so that just gives you a little idea of what the collection looks like in its natural habitat, as they say. And yeah, so why don't we start the show, shall we? Alright, let's kick it off with shelf number 1. First up, we got Two Guns with that awesome Canadian slip. Still need to watch this film, but I understand it's based on the comic, so yeah, gonna check it out. And who doesn't love Morgan Freeman and Mark Wahlberg? Next up, Two-Headed Shark Attack. Awesome asylum film with Carmen Electra, Charlie O'Connell, and Brooke Hogan. And yeah, I need to get the other ones. I ordered them, but they never showed up, so I got a refund. And on Blu-ray, they're German only, but this is the only one on Blu-ray in the US. But yeah, I had a good time with that one. I like the asylum films in general, because they're cheese-tastic, as they say. Next up, 3 Days of the Condor, a really great 70s spy thriller with Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway. And again, the Canadian edition there. Because you see the French title underneath the English one. And you will notice that there are a lot of Canadian titles, and there's some UK ones, some German ones, because, it's good to vary it up. It's good to have things that most people won't have in their collections, and different editions of those films that most people won't have. And we got some Three Musketeers action for you from the Asylum, which, again, still need to watch this one, but this one came out at around the time of that, believe it was like 2010, 2011, that one, which, that didn't really go anywhere, but then we got 8 Mile, the amazing Curtis Hanson film with Eminem. Awesome custom cover here, which is based on the theatrical poster, which I like this. I like this one too, but I like this one because it's the cover of the album as well. But yeah, you'll see some custom covers in here as well. Because again, gotta make it different. got to stand out amongst the sea of Blu-ray collectors out there. 12 strong with Chris Hemsworth on horseback in the Middle East. I've not watched this, but I will. Got it for cheap. We got 12 Years a Slave, which I need to rewatch because it's been a while. But yeah, this is a film that I think, again, as far as studying our past and everything, this is one to watch, definitely. And it's a good, portrait of what a lot of slaves went through. And just, if you're interested in human suffering like I am, then this is one to add to your suffering repertoire. And we got 28 Days Later, which I need to get 28 weeks later. I'd love to find the icon slip for this as well, because I'm a slipcover psychopath, as you know. But yeah, that's a fantastic zombie film. Love it. 31, and this is a Rob Zombie film that was kind of disappointing. It's not like horrible or anything, but it's just, it feels like after Lords of Salem and his 2 Halloween films that he kind of took several steps back with this one. But if you like Rob Zombie, it's worth checking out. We got some 50-50 action for you. I've got to rewatch this. It's been way too long. I remembered not really liking it when I first saw it, but it's one of those things that I'm in a better state of mind now, so I can judge it more fairly. We got some 127 hours action for you with the awesome Deadpool slipcover, and you're gonna see quite a number of these. I have every single Walmart exclusive Deadpool slip that's out there, which is really nice. Now there are there's only one film that I don't have the movie for it, but I have the slip, and that's City Slickers. But all the rest of them I have. But City Slickers, I have the slip for it, so just rest assured. 200 Miles Per Hour, the Asylum's ripoff of Fast and the Furious, because of course they had to do that. And then we got 500 Days of Summer and My Life in Ruins with that, which I guess this was, On the Moments, was that like a Walmart thing? I think it was, but yeah, I liked 500 Days of Summer. I have not watched My Life in Ruins yet. And then we got ourselves the first of many Stanley Kubrick films. This is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick's my directorial hero. He's an inspiration to every filmmaker out there, and arguably his best film, although with Kubrick, I mean, you're kind of just, that's a really fine hair to split right there. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective and Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. This particular release is very out of print because this was back before Morgan Creek. Yeah, they had, I guess, a deal with Warner Brothers for a long time, but then Sony, I guess, bought their catalog, and so like these Warner Brothers ones that they put out, these ones have gone out of print. This is since these movies have gone back into print through Sony, but this particular 2-pack is really out of print now. We got our action thrillers collection here with the slipcover with Blood Diamond, Ninja Assassins, Domino, and Executive Decision. The slipcovers, I believe, were Best Buy exclusive for quite a while. We got AI Artificial Intelligence, which was a Steven Spielberg directed film based on a concept that was pioneered by Stanley Kubrick, but he couldn't realize it because he died in 1999, and the plan was always to have Steven Spielberg direct it and have Stanley Kubrick produce it. And to this day, it actually says on the back that DreamWorks and Warner Brothers present an Amblin and Stanley Kubrick production. So, and the film's dedicated to Stanley Kubrick, even though he died before it ever saw the screen. But there's some people that hate this movie, but I love it. It's one of my favorite Spielberg films because I love just how faithfully he executed Stanley's vision, but also Stanley wanted Steven Spielberg to direct it because as he was developing it, he said, Steven, this is closer to your sensibilities than mine, so I think it's a great marriage of the two styles, personally. Some people don't like it, but I really love it. And then we got Airplane, actually, both Airplane films. Whoa. But this is the Walmart exclusive, that VHS slipcover design that they did some time ago. But yeah, it's actually Airplane 1 and 2. I put that slipcover on there. But yeah, I love the first one. Possibly my favorite comedy of all time. Second one I did not see for such a long time. Then I finally did, and it's okay. Like it kind of relies on the first one a little too much, but it has some okay jokes of its own, and it's well worth watching for if for no other reason than William Shatner is hilarious in it. He sends up his just really over the top style of acting and his specifically his Captain Kirk persona, for which he was best known at the time and still is best known for. But yeah, I highly recommend that. And then we got some Aladdin films for you. We got the original 1992 animated Disney classic with that amazing Best Buy exclusive steelbook, possibly my favorite animated film of all time, and probably favorite Disney film. So yeah, there you go. And then we've got the direct-to-video sequels, which Return of Jafar and Aladdin and the King of Thieves. These are possibly the only like truly great Disney direct-to-video sequels of that era. And in fact, Return of Jafar actually launched Disney Toons, which that was the studio that did those for like, well, that was 94 all the way up to like whatever that was, all through the 2000s is when they did all the direct-to-video sequels. But and they're not really all that well known for being that great, but these two are fantastic, especially Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Like that, it's basically Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but with Aladdin and friends. But yeah, fantastic stuff. And then we got the Best Buy exclusive steelbook of Aladdin 2019, the live action one with Will Smith, which I enjoyed this one. I mean, obviously the animated one's better, but it wasn't the exact same movie, which is good because I didn't want it to be. I did not want it to be a carbon copy, and thankfully they did enough different about it to make it stand out and have its own identity. And I loved Naomi Scott as Jasmine. I think she was just perfect. And let's see, what else have we got? We got Alice in Wonderland, an X-rated musical comedy, which, you know, this is totally the same as the Disney film, right? But yeah, this is this has a DVD release, but it does not have an official Blu-ray release, so this is a bootleg. But yeah, it's with Christine DeBelle, 70s. Yeah. Next up, we got all of the Alien films. We got the first one with that amazing Deadpool slip there. And what's that? It's actually the 4K, not the regular. How about that? But yeah, the first Aliens masterpiece, of course. Everyone loves it. It's probably my personal favorite of the Alien films. Some people, they like Aliens best, but I like this one the best because I like the horror aspects of it and the fact that it's all claustrophobic and dark. But I do love Aliens as well. James Cameron film, more sci-fi action, but still really good. And for some people, they say that this is their favorite of the series, and I wish that this would get a 4K, but, you know, we'll see. I mean, I know Disney, now that they own 20th Century Fox, I know that there's been some controversy about whether they will or won't do a lot of the back catalog in 4K of both Disney and 20th Century Fox. We'll see. I imagine that, again, if the franchise is big enough that they'll do it, because what, are they allergic to money? Of course not. And especially, you know, this is a James Cameron film, and, you know, they want to continue their great relationship with him because of the 10 billion Avatar sequels that we're getting. And then we got Alien 3, which I've not watched yet, but see, all these had the slips because I'm a big slipcover psychopath, as we know. This was actually David Fincher's directorial debut. And I have not watched this, but apparently this film is very different from what the original script was, and I've actually been looking on my Audible account, and there's actually apparently there is a reading that was recorded of the original script for Alien 3 that I guess got changed for whatever reason. So at least it's out there now. But yeah, Alien 3, significant because obviously David Fincher's directorial debut. Alien Resurrection, which, I've not watched either, but I know that it's regarded as being one of the least good of the series. Jean-Pierre Jeunet, however you pronounce it, but he did Amelie, which is funny that he went from this to Amelie. And then we got the Alien versus Predator 2-pack here with this box set here, which this, I guess, is out of print now, this design. But yeah, Alien versus Predator 1 and Requiem, which I've not watched these yet either. I know I'm a terrible person. Tell me something new. And then we got ourselves Prometheus, and this one is in the 3D package here with all the... There's a reason for it. It's because... What's this? Why, it's the 4K disc. That's right. And what's that on the inside? It's the 4K casing, or the cover. Well, it's because what I did was I got the 3D version, and I just combined the two. Because this one has a bunch of special features that the normal 4K release doesn't have. It's got a slip. I like the cover better. And if you'll notice, the 4K disc has the same art design as the 3D disc, so it just fits. Yeah, you'll see some, if you haven't noticed already, you see some like mixing and matching that I've done. Because again, gotta save space and gotta be different from all those other fools out there. And then last up for Alien, we got Alien Covenant, the awesome Best Buy exclusive steelbook, which I just realized I hadn't talked about Prometheus. I really like Prometheus a lot. I wanted to see it in the theater, but I didn't. I saw it a couple years later. I really enjoyed this film. I don't know why people don't like it. I assume it's because probably the people who like Aliens best, like sci-fi action. I think this one, this one had some horror elements to it, but I think this one was really the first one that of the series that I saw anyway. I haven't seen the other 3 or 4 or the Versus ones, but this one was sci-fi proper. This is like contemplative. It's got pretty weighty, heavy themes. I think it's quite a probing, exploration of, well, if we were created by some higher power, whether it's, a non-physical being or essence like God as we might define it, or in this case like another race of aliens, which would be godlike to us, basically. Like, what does that mean? What's our higher purpose? Just it asks a lot of questions like that, and I think it explores them really interestingly. And then Alien Covenant, I think, is a good way to kind of blend, to help marry Prometheus, what it started, along with where it's going, to try and catch it up with Alien 1. But I like this one too. I saw this one in the theater, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. It helped to kind of bridge the two together. And again, for some people it didn't work, but I don't agree with I don't agree with a lot of fan bases these days. I think a lot of their reasonings are just entitled bullshit. And then, of course, to round it off, Alien Origins, the Asylum's knockoff of Prometheus, in found footage style, because of course. And then All Creatures Here Below with my girl Karen Gillan, the first of many films of hers that we'll see. And again, the Canadian release, because as you notice, they got the English here, and then they got the French there. And they tend to do it kind of upside down like that. And then we got the German release of All Girls Weekend by my friend Lou Simon, with a great cast of horror ladies here. Had to get this German release because it's on DVD in the US, but not on Blu-ray. And of course, if you can do the Blu-ray, then go for it. And it's because I have a region-free player, because I want to watch these things in their best quality. But I also like this cover better, too. This is the original poster design. And then last up for this row, All Superheroes Must Die, because of course they must. I've not watched this yet, but yeah. It's always cool to see some non-mainstream superhero fare. We got The Asylum's Almighty Thor, intended to capitalize on Marvel's Thor, which came out in 2011. Except, guess what? Thor is Norse mythology, so it's public domain, so anybody can come along and make their own Thor movie, including The Asylum. So, how about that? I've not finished this one yet, but I do intend to, and it's got Kevin Nash in it for any wrestling fans out there. And then we got some Altered States action for you, which this was a Patty Chayefsky novel that was written for the screen by Sidney Aaron and directed by Ken Russell, who a lot of people make fun of for some reason. I guess because his style's kind of batshit, but that's why I like it, because I like batshit things. And this needs a Criterion release. It's really, really good. Great sci-fi film. And then, of course, we got Amadeus, one of the best historical dramas ever. Winner of 8 Oscars, including Best Picture. Can't say enough good things about it. And it comes with this awesome digibook here with a soundtrack sampler and a little track listing here that just fell out. That's okay. Amazing film. See it if you haven't. We got one of the few non-Star Wars or Indiana Jones related things that George Lucas has been involved in, let alone directed, American Graffiti. Great film. It really showed that, you know, he could make... this is such a standout from his other filmography because, well, it's very character-centric. It's got a kind of feel-good atmosphere to it. It's very relatable. If for a lot of people, it's very relatable, and it's one of the few things that he's done that he hasn't tinkered with since this came out, as far as I know, because this doesn't have like a special edition or anything, even though, well, it says special edition, but I think it means just the digitally remastered picture. I don't think that he messed with... There's no Richard Dreyfuss shot first or anything like that in this, but yeah, amazing film, great comedy, just fun. And then we got one of my favorite films of 2013, American Hustle, there with the slip. I saw this in the theater. I had a great time with it. 10 Oscar nominations. I don't think it won any, but this is a film that people don't really talk about so much anymore, which is too bad because it's well worth it. And then we got one of my favorite horror films of the 2010s, American Mary. Fantastic film. I wish it got more love from people. I think it's an amazing film about kind of women trying to exist in a world, trying to succeed in a field or in a world that seems to be kind of stacked against them, or at the very least, some creeps that try to get in the way, and just kind of, quite literally carving out a name for yourself. And I think it's an amazing film. I almost wonder if you could really even call it horror, because, it's got a few horrific elements, but it's mostly about this person that, she doesn't really find herself all that welcome in the medical establishment, and so she kind of makes some good money on the side doing body modification, extreme body modification, which is probably not all that regulated. But yeah, it's awesome if you like Catherine Isabel, if you like the Soska sisters, and if you're interested in body modification as a concept. And yeah, it's a great kind of exploration of, someone who doesn't really fit in trying to make her way in this wacky world. And then, kind of similarly, and fitting that we have these next to each other, American Psycho. And that's more about, American Mary is more about standing out and trying to differentiate oneself from a bunch of creepy guys. And then we have ourselves a creepy guy who tries his best to fit in and to not let his facade down. But yeah, it's an amazing dark comedy with some horror elements to it, and a great adaptation of a great book. It's especially great if you just like really fucked up, if you have a really fucked up sense of humor and you like fucked up movies like I do. But yeah, highly recommend it. My friends and I in college quoted this movie all the time. And then we got American Sniper, which for whatever reason it caused such controversy when it came out, and I didn't really get it because I didn't get either side of the argument, because you had one side that was saying it was, pro-war propaganda, and then other side that was saying, that it was, this courageous portrayal of a great American and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really think either of those things were true. I thought it was a pretty chilling and haunting portrait of what war does to someone. Someone with good intentions, to just serve his country and everything, but he finds that he's really good at killing, and he can't really adapt back to normal life, and he almost kills a dog just when he's having a PTSD flashback, and it's like, and again, if you're a fan of the Punisher, you'll know the famous skull, which he wears and has on his tanks and on his army fatigue and everything, because you know this is actually, like, you could easily look at this through the lens of the Punisher, through the character of Frank Castle, and if you look at it through that lens and through that kind of person that he is, then this will make a lot more sense to you, I think. And then we got some American Ultra for you, which I have not seen, but I know Chris Stuckman liked this film, and it's a script by, if I recall, Max Landis, who I guess he's in a heap of trouble these days, but yeah. Then we got Amityville: The Awakening, which this does have a slipcover, but this release is very out of print, and I was lucky to find this one that I managed to get. And this is the only Amityville film that I have, which, again, it's like Thor. It's the murders that happen, the DeFeo murders, those are a matter of public record, so no one owns the rights to them, and the subsequent hauntings, anyone can make an Amityville film. And the Amityville films that have existed have no real connection to each other. Even the ones that, are connected have kind of, shaky continuity at best. Not watched this film yet, but I got it because Bella Thorne is smoking. And then we got some AVGN action for you. We got the BFG of Blu-rays here with that awesome Takeoff of Doom there. And this has every physical release up to, I want to say, Volume 4 at this time. And he did leave some extra space there for a future release. Yeah, Ready for Revenge. That's the 4th collection. And that's a great set. Highly recommend it for AVGN fans. And then we got the movie, signed by Lloyd Kaufman, who has a cameo in there, and signed by one of the visual effects artists, which is pretty cool. And yeah, but and then we got a Scream Factory. Was that the first one? If not, it's close to it. Animal, which a great slipcover design. I've not watched this yet, but this is one of those more contemporary releases that they did, but I think it looks really cool. And then we got Annabelle, which I enjoyed this one. It's not as good as the Conjuring films, but I liked the historical context to it by setting it at around the time of the Manson murders, because it just, there was some talk about whether it was a cult. Well, it technically was a cult murder, but like a satanic cult kind of thing, which it wasn't. It was a Charles Manson was messed up enough that he could do that fine on his own. Thank you very much. But yeah, I enjoyed this one for that historical context. Story-wise and script-wise, I think Annabelle Creation was better. And this one I saw in the theater, which was pretty sweet. And yeah, really, I think this one does Annabelle justice. I have not watched the third one yet, but I will when I get it in the collection. And then we got Another Deadly Weekend, which was released in the U.S. as Muck. And I got this one because, well, the normal Blu-ray release of it, the American one, it's like Muck. It's like, that's just kind of, say that word out loud, Muck. It just doesn't sound good. And besides, it's like we got some other goodies on this cover that I think will provide us some good things to focus on. And then I have the Target exclusive, whatever this is. I don't even know what you call this. The ones that Target's doing relatively recently, but it's of Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I don't even have the first Ant-Man, but I like the first Ant-Man a lot. I like this one quite a lot more. Yeah, I'm trying to get my MCU films back in the collection, and this was the first one that I managed to get. But yeah, been a Marvel fan ever since I can remember, and I was a fan of Ant-Man and the Wasp before they had movies made about them. So ha. Um, and Peyton Reed, a great guy. I met him at a alumni event for UNC Chapel Hill, where I went to school, and he signed a copy of a certain something that we'll get to later. Antrum. This one was, I believe, printed on demand from Amazon. Super, super creepy avant-garde horror film that's part found footage, part 70s throwback movie, part subliminal, creepy as shit, subliminal messages and images. It's like, can't say enough good things about that film. It's on Amazon Prime if you want to watch it, or you can get it off of Amazon. They'll press it on demand. Football 3-pack of Any Given Sunday, Varsity Blues, and We Are Marshall, which I have not seen these two, but I love Any Given Sunday because I love Oliver Stone. And it's kind of, in a weird way, it's almost like the anti-sports film, at least in its kind of, it treats it almost like, very tribal, very kind of fly on the wall, very like, rough and tumble, and I don't know. It's just it's a different kind of sports movie. It's not really like all uplifting. It's more, I guess, almost cynical, except for like the rousing speech towards the end. And then the horror. One of my favorite movies of all time, Apocalypse Now. That amazing 4K release that has the original theatrical cut, the Apocalypse Now Redux cut, and the new cut, the quote-unquote final cut, which I guess is longer than the theatrical but shorter than Redux. So yeah, however you want to slice that. But I'm most familiar with the theatrical cut. I'd love to do a comparison of the rest of them, but kudos to Francis Ford Coppola for, I have no problem with people going back and making changes to their films as long as the original version of that film is still out there and readily accessible. So thank you, Francis Ford Coppola, for doing that. And of course, that's probably my favorite Francis Ford Coppola film, and one of my favorites of all time. And then we got Apocalypto, this really out of print original Touchstone release of the film. And it's coming back into print through Samuel Goldwyn Films, but this is the original release. Possibly Mel Gibson's best directorial effort, that's saying a lot because his films, like I've not seen The Man Without a Face yet, but Braveheart, this film, The Passion of the Christ, Hacksaw Ridge, if you like period epics that are super violent and are really visually stunning and have amazing scores and just really place you in a older world where death was around every corner and survival was key, and just all these things that we've largely kind of forgotten in the 21st century, and this is a great one that you should definitely check out. And I like that it's about the Mayans, because they don't really get a lot of love on screen. A lot of, non-Eurocentric or non-European cultures, they don't really get a lot of love in our cinema, which is too bad. Apollo 18, which I like this found footage film quite a lot. I don't get what the hate was against it. I think it stands out among the rest, and there's some good reasons as to why the cameras are there. So yeah, I'd recommend it personally. I don't know what people are on about. Aquaman, one of my favorite DC EU films. I just like the adventurous feel to it. I like Black Manta. I like the Ocean Master. I liked how I think after this film we can finally stop making fun of Aquaman, which is good because Aquaman, if you know anything about comic books, you know that Aquaman can do a lot more than just talk to fish and swim underwater while being able to breathe. He can do a whole lot more than that, and this film shows that off in spectacular fashion. I love the ocean, always have, and I love when they go down into the depths and you see those really creepy, deep sea creatures, whatever those are. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. This is probably my number 2 behind Wonder Woman. And then we got, this is the first UK release that we see in the collection. This is Argo. I specifically got this release of the 4K because this one has the extended cut on 4K, which the US one does not for some reason. I don't know why. But 4K is region free anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, great directed, starring Ben Affleck and directed by him. Best Picture winner. Really great film. I think, again, people need to stop making fun of Ben Affleck because he's a really talented person in front of and behind the camera. And he made a damn good Batman, so there. Another Best Picture winner, The Artist, which actually, that 2011, 2012. Yeah, this film I saw in the theater, and it's a silent film, black and white, 4x3. It checks off so many of my boxes because I love silent films more than anything, and I just felt so privileged to be able to see a new silent film in the theater. I couldn't believe my luck, and I do feel bad for people that didn't get to see it in the theater. I think everyone should see a silent film at least once in the theater, and preferably a brand new one like that. The Zavvi exclusive steelbook of Arrietty, which was released in the US as The Secret World of Arrietty, and for whatever reason, only in the US, because everywhere else it was released just as Arrietty. But yeah, it's an adaptation of The Borrowers. I love this film. I need to get more Studio Ghibli films in my collection. This one I saw on the big screen when it was in a limited release around here. Definitely a great experience. Yeah, wonderful film. One of my favorite found footage films, As Above, So Below. Criminally underrated film. I don't know why people didn't like this film. I guess because people hate found footage, and those people clearly don't know anything about really avant-garde or interesting, different cinema. Like, this film, I think, it really, if you peel back the layers, like, it makes you think, because this has a lot to do with different, like, esoteric or occult traditions and ideas about, well, it's in the title, As Above, So Below. That's a classic esoteric idea. You got some Dante's Inferno in here. You got, alchemy. You got the Philosopher's Stone. It's all kinds of really interesting stuff. The real-life Paris catacombs are fascinating, and they filmed in the real catacombs, which is pretty amazing. It's basically like Tomb Raider, except found footage. Highly, highly recommend it. I don't know what people were on about, but public opinion can go fuck itself. The Asphalt Jungle, I just got this today for only $15, which is dirt cheap for a Criterion. And this is a film noir directed by John Huston, so looking forward to watching that finally. It's been on my list for a long time. Assassin's Creed with the Deadpool slip in 4K. And I've not watched this yet, and I heard not so great things, but, video game films seem to be hitting their stride recently with, like, Detective Pikachu, and with the more recent Tomb Raider film, and with Sonic the Hedgehog and things like that, and also films about video games like Wreck-It Ralph and, that sort of thing. But, yeah. Then we got a Canadian exclusive triple feature of Assassins, Cobra, and Demolition Man. Still need to watch these, but it has a slip and it's Canadian exclusive, so how about that? Assault on Wall Street, from what I understand, one of Uwe Boll's better received films. It seems like when he's not encumbered by a license, like a video game license, then he seems to be having a better time with things. And this was shot in Canada with the participation of the Canadian Film or Video Tax Credit, because that's how Uwe Boll rolls. And then we got Attack from Beneath, also known as Atlantic Rim. And then for some reason they say an epic sci-fi action adventure in the vein of Transformers and X-Men, despite the fact that it's a ripoff of Pacific Rim. They probably did that because they couldn't continue to call it Atlantic Rim for, I guess, legal reasons, so they're probably trying to distance the fact that it's a ripoff of a movie that it's clearly trying to rip off, and it sure didn't stop them from any of the other ripoffs that they've done. But yeah, I like to think of this as Atlantic Rim, but yeah, then this Attack from Beneath on my copy. But then Australia, the Baz Luhrmann film that I remembered in the theater that nobody talks about anymore, which is too bad. I think it's pretty underrated. It's not, like, amazing, but, you know, I think it's underrated. It certainly educates non-Australians about Australian history, especially during World War II, which is pretty sweet, and the ugly history that they've had with racism as well. Next up, we got Austin Powers Trilogy pack here. First one is fantastic. I didn't really care for the second one, except for some moments here and there, and I like the third one a little bit better, personally, but everyone has their favorites. Automata, this Canadian version with the slip. Still need to watch this one, but I've been meaning to, and the US version doesn't have a slip cover, so yeah. And then we got The Aviator, one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films by far. It's one that actually gets better and better the more times I watch it, and it got a huge amount of buzz at the time. And people don't really talk about it as much anymore, but they should. Howard Hughes is a fascinating person, and this film really does him justice. Film I need to finish watching, Awakenings. In the Columbia Classics Collection Volume 1, the one that they did on 4K, they just recently did a customer survey where they talked about what films you want to see on 4K in the next one. This was actually on their list, so they're clearly thinking about getting it on 4K, so that's pretty sweet. We got a Sam Mendes film, Away We Go, and I like this one. It's very underrated. It's one of his smaller scale ones. Yeah, it's just a good little, pregnancy comedy drama, which it's weird because for a while there, whatever year this was this 2008, 2009? For a while there, because of Juno and Knocked Up, like, it seemed like that pregnancy comedy drama, in a weird way, it was almost like becoming its own subgenre. Seemed to have gotten out of that phase, but yeah, this is a good one. John Krasinski does a good job in it, and Maya Rudolph too. The Babadook, with the amazing pop-out slip from Shout Factory. One of the best horror films of the 2010s, I think. Amazing New Zealand horror film from writer-director Jennifer Kent. But yeah, amazing film. How the Babadook got to be an LGBTQ icon, I'll never know. Someone told me once, but I can't remember. And we got a trilogy pack of the Bad Boys films. I've not seen Bad Boys for Life, but I've seen the other two. I like the second one more than the first because I think the highway chase is great. I love the 360 camera through the keyhole, that whole thing. Michael Bay is someone to watch if you want to learn more about how to think visually and how to cover a scene from angles and in such a way that no one else will do. Doesn't mean that the stories will always be the best or the most, there's not going to be deep or anything for the most part, but you can learn a lot of really cool visual ideas from watching Michael Bay films, and I mean that not ironically, I mean that seriously. Yeah, really, really good to study for just overall the visual language of film. And then we got Bad Moms 1 and 2, which I've not watched yet, but I love Mila Kunis and Kristen Bell, and eager to check them out finally. And then we got one of my favorite Christmas films of all time, Bad Santa, with the slipcover. This is such a fucked up movie, and that's why I love it. I have a really fucked up sense of humor, and You won't get much more fucked up than this as far as like a more, mainstream type film. And how this, got to be mainstream in any way is kind of a miracle, because it is so not, mainstream in its orientation, but it's so messed up and I love it. I have not seen the second one yet, but I want to. I want to see if I can't track down that 4K. That would Best Buy exclusive 4K. Bad Teacher, which I didn't necessarily think I would like, but I really did. I think that I give Cameron Diaz a lot of credit for taking a risk and doing something like this, and doing, playing a character this unlikable. But I like the fact that she's unlikable and so blatantly superficial and just terrible. She took a big risk doing this, and I think it's really funny because of that. She has no apologies for being just this completely superficial, horrible person. Bad Words, which I need to finish. I love Jason Bateman. And Bangkok Dangerous, one of many Nicolas Cage films that you will see in the collection, because Nicolas Cage is an inspiration to me as an actor. He's one of the few that really takes a lot of risks and experiments, and he isn't afraid, which is really great. Barbarella, absolutely love this film, based on a French comic, with Jane Fonda, and she was so beautiful in her day. Just an amazing film. It was adapted by Terry Southern, and directed by Roger Vadim. Terry Southern was one of the best satirical writers of his generation. We need more writers like him, and we need more films like this, ones that aren't afraid to kind of have a kinky, sexy, funny, sense of humor. And then one of my favorite Stanley Kubrick films, Barry Lyndon, from the Criterion Collection. Probably his most underrated film. I absolutely love this film. I know some people find it boring, but I don't find it boring for a second. I think it's a beautiful recreation of the 1700s in England and Ireland, and it's just, I can't say enough good things about it. I feel sad that his Napoleon film never got made, but all the research that he did into that period, which, more about like this is, just as the, American Civil War is happening, it's the 7 Years' War. So, I mean, Napoleon came on the scene a little bit later, but all that research that he did really helped make this the masterpiece that I think it is. And it got a ton of Oscar nominations, and it won 4, so. Barton Fink, my favorite Coen Brothers film by far, and I would argue their best. Won 3 awards at the Cannes Film Festival, including the Palme d'Or. Very well deserved. A film that really defies genre. It's like, what is it? Is it a horror film? Is it a dark comedy? Is it a buddy film? Is it a murder mystery? Is it a Hollywood satire? Well, it's all of those things, so highly recommend it. Now we got the first of many Batman-related things in the collection here. We got the complete Adam West series here. What a great show this is for what it is. There's some people that really don't like comedic, silly Batman, but I think this absolutely accomplishes what it sets out to be. It's incredibly funny. The cast, especially the villains, like they're really, like, a lot of people forget those were really high caliber, like classically trained actors like Burgess Meredith and Vincent Price, and they loved being on the show because it gave them a chance to flex their acting muscles and to do things they wouldn't normally do. And yeah, I think it's a great show for what it is. And there's nothing wrong with silly, campy, versions of a character, as long as you balance it out with other interpretations. The movie, of course, based on the show, a really good cinematic, realization of the show. And this came out in the same year as the first season, so I mean, there's a reason why they called it Batmania in the mid-60s. It was a cultural phenomenon. That show and this film, by extension, helped launch Batman into mainstream recognition, so I mean, don't knock it. But, you know, the film that reinvented Batman in the mainstream for its time was Tim Burton's Batman. This is the UK steelbook design there. It's the same steelbook design as the Best Buy exclusive ones, except this one comes with the 4K and with the regular Blu-ray with the features on it, so that's why I got it. My personal favorite live-action Batman film is this one. My favorite Batman costume, my favorite just look and feel of Gotham City and the villains, and this Joker, Jack Nicholson, I think he's the most classic Joker that we've ever had. He looks the part, he acts the part. Yeah, it's just a classic film. You know, it realizes Batman really, really well. And then, of course, Batman Returns. Again, same design, same, you know, all four of the Burton Schumacher films are that same design. I love this film, too. It's really dark and weird and fucked up and sexual and kind of perverted and morbid and all kinds of great stuff like that. Michelle Pfeiffer is a fantastic Catwoman. Danny DeVito plays a great, you know, creepy, freakish reinvention of the Penguin. I would like to see, well, beyond Burgess Meredith, who we saw in the show and in the Batman the movie, I'd love to see like a more kind of classic Penguin on screen and done really well, but for this kind of reinvention, I think he fits in this world that Tim Burton was creating. And it's just, I don't know, I really like it. I can see why it got a parental backlash, though, and why Batman Forever happened, which, you know, as far as, like, a more child-friendly Batman, while still, you know, hitting a lot of, like, you know, checking a lot of mainstream audience boxes, and trying to tap into some of the nostalgia that people had in the 90s for the Adam West Batman. It seems like this one, for that kind of thing, it seems to check off a lot of those boxes, and for what it's trying to be, I think it comes together pretty well. I love Jim Carrey in general, and especially as the Riddler. Val Kilmer's an underrated Batman. Robin, they do really well in this. Two-Face is not very good in this, but, yeah, and certain drafts of the script, if they'd have filmed those, would have resulted in a better, darker film. But even for what we got, I think, as far as, like, a really, you know, mainstream, marketable, kind of checks the boxes of this target audience and that target audience, for that kind of Batman film, I think this one actually accomplishes that quite well. And it did, financially, it did better business than Batman Returns, and it, again, kind of reinvented Batman in the eyes of many people. And then, of course, Batman and Robin, which probably is the most notorious superhero film, if not film, ever, and a film that has been rightfully accused of suffering from sequelitis in the worst possible way. And it's really true. This film is like a dumbed down toy commercial version of Batman Forever, which a lot of people can accused of being toned down from the previous ones already, which it technically was. This was actually, I think, the first live-action superhero film I ever saw. I saw it when I was like 5 years old. Now, at that age, I thought it was great. You know, for which again, it's not. It's still rated PG-13 in the U.S., but as you can see in the UK system, it's a PG, which is like one step above a U, which is like their equivalent of a G rating. So clearly in the UK, they had the right idea with how they rated this, because this is much more of a kid-friendly film. And, you know, if you are a little kid, then you'll probably love this. And if you like really campy, over-the-top, you know, ridiculous lines and situations and everything, then, I mean, it's really funny, but for all the wrong reasons, not for the reasons it necessarily intends, or maybe it does, who knows. But it is different from the 60s series in the sense that this one's a lot more self-aware, whereas this one feels a lot more like studio mandated, and it just, I think that's where the sincerity and the charm kind of falls apart. But yeah, I mean, if you're a little kid, I mean, like I was, you'll probably enjoy it, you know, and I enjoy it as a, you know, as a bad movie, I enjoy it. And then, of course, without that film having been what it was, we never would have gotten Batman Begins. Possibly my favorite of the Nolan trilogy, which, his interpretation of Gotham and Batman and everything. I'm more okay with the comic bookiness of, well, Batman and his world and the DC universe in general. If you're not really as comfortable with that, if you want like a more quote unquote realistic Batman, then this series is for you, and obviously it was for many people, including myself. But yeah, I think this one, yeah, just for me, I found that this one was the one I enjoyed the most. I rewatched it the most, and I don't know, it just checks off a lot of the boxes for me as far as like themes and overcoming fear and that kind of thing. And the Scarecrow's done really well in this. Um, and then, of course, The Dark Knight, which this was the one that broke $1 billion at the box office back before that was like the goal for studio films. Heath Ledger, of course, reinvented the Joker. I'll be honest with you though, like when I saw this the first time, I didn't like it as much as Batman Begins, and I didn't like the fact that the Joker wore makeup instead of having the bleached skin. That was at the time. I've since gotten over it, and I'm more okay with the idea of the Joker wearing makeup. Now, as for what it's going for, I think it's a great crime drama film with Batman in it. And of course, the Joker's amazing. Again, I still prefer like more traditional Joker, but that's just me because I'm a comic book person. But again, for what this film is trying to be, it does it very, very well. And Dark Knight Rises, I personally remembered finding it very disappointing. I've not watched it in full since theaters. I do want to, but I just remembered I found, even with the tweaking of Bane's voice, I remembered finding him hard to understand, but also I remembered finding just normal conversations hard to understand because the audio mix was just, I don't know what it was. It was just maybe, I don't know, the theatrical, and it says on the back 4K HDR version with original theatrical audio mix. Which, if that's the case, then it says it on the other ones too, but if that's the case, then we're in trouble because I remember seeing this in IMAX and I was like, I can barely understand what people are saying, So I was like, I don't know what it was, but like the audio mixing was just not good, even though they did make Bane slightly more intelligible than he was before. But yeah, there are plot holes that you can drive a dump truck through, and it takes itself really, really, really seriously to the point where it reaches melodrama levels of, you know, craziness, and just was a bit much for me. And I'm not alone in thinking that. And then we got the last of the live action Batman films, as of yet, before the Batman comes out. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I enjoyed this film. It is not really structured like a conventional film. It's structured much more like a graphic novel that just happened to be put on screen. Um, you could argue maybe it's a little too dense. I don't think they needed Doomsday in here. They didn't need to cram that in there. I think they tried to do too much in this film. I've not watched the extended cut yet, but I will. But I loved Ben Affleck as Batman. I loved Gal Gadot as a Wonder Woman. Um, I like the dark tone. I will be really excited to see what Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League is like. Yeah, I didn't mind the dark tone. I like dark things in general. Um, and I like that the DCEU isn't afraid to, have Superman and have an alien and have an Amazonian and a rich guy who dresses up as a bat and, Aquaman and all these, fantastical things in there. They're not afraid. Like, I felt like the Nolan films were kind of afraid of that, but this is like, hey, it's a comic book world, go for it. Um, but yeah, could this have been more streamlined? Definitely. I liked what I got though, but overall, I can see why it didn't click with some people, with a lot of people. I think Lex Luthor, that interpretation was very, very different. I would have liked Terry O'Quinn or Bryan Cranston and I didn't really get the manic thing, but you know, at least it was different. You know, I'll say that. I still want to see like that really dark, sinister Lex Luthor personally, and for me, this is much more of a Batman film than it even is a Superman film. Superman feels a little tangential or like someone that the film is talking about, but I feel like you see it more from Batman's point of view. As a Batman film, though, I thought it was actually pretty good. I liked the look of the Batmobile. I like the way he fights in here. I like the suit. I like that they managed to make the traditional black and gray outfit. They made it work. They made it look cool. And it's obviously derived from the Dark Knight Returns look, so there you go. That's the end of Batman live action films and shows, but I got a few other things up my sleeve in terms of animation. That's usually how I do it. I do live action and then animation after that. The complete series of Batman the Animated Series. Now, if we're talking about all versions of Batman outside of the comic books medium, this is by far and away the best version of Batman, which most people know that. Kevin Conroy, if you're counting animation, by far the best Batman. Mark Hamill, best Joker. Introduced Harley Quinn into the world. Can't say enough good things about it. Great set. Just chock full of extras. You know, just watch it if you haven't. And then I need to get more Batman animated stuff, but got Assault on Arkham here, which is kind of deceptively titled. It should be called The Suicide Squad, but then again, this was before the movie, before they had that brand name recognition in the eyes of the mainstream. This is a really good one, set in the Arkhamverse from the games. And some people have said that this is what the live-action Suicide Squad should have been. You know, we can argue whether it should or shouldn't or whatever. I'm glad that it exists as it is, that this exists as it is, and then I enjoy what I got with Suicide Squad, but I do want to see the David Ayer cut.